What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. I'm Jeff. This is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and every once in a while throw in other whiskey-related content. Today, I've got a list for you guys. I want to go over 7 affordable, straightforward peated whiskeys. So it'll be a fun one. Stick around. So you like to drink straightforward peated whiskeys, but you don't want to spend too much money on them? Well, dear viewer, you clicked on the right video. Such is the premise of today's list. Now, because I want to keep things budget friendly today, I'm setting a maximum limit of $75 for these bottles, although I think most of them are going to be well under that. Now, keep in mind, I do live in Taiwan, which is one of the world's cheapest Scotch markets, so there is that consideration. But I think regardless of where you are, these all should be reasonably priced. Unless you live in like Canada or Australia, where reasonably priced is not a thing. My condolences. But yeah, if you do come across these bottles and they're selling for well over 75 US, then I suggest you find the owner of the liquor store and start verbally abusing them. Here is a list of suggested terms. Feel free to use one or all of them. And of course, if you live in a country where the liquor is state controlled, I suggest complaining to your local senator, your local premier, your local dictator. I don't know where you live. Actually, if it's a dictatorship, maybe don't complain. Maybe suck it up. Now, I mentioned this is a list of straightforward peated whiskeys. What does that mean? That means we're looking for whiskeys that aren't too heavily influenced by things like sherry casks or wine casks. There's not a lot in the way of like cask acrobatics. And that's not to say they can't have any kind of different cask influence. They might, but the flavor profile will be dominated by the peaty distillate. And that's pretty much the whole premise. Nothing to add, really. This list will be in ascending order of preference. And as usual, guys, I do have a mystery pour in my glass here. It's a beautiful whiskey. Stick around to the end of the list. I'll share with you what that is. Your hint for today is that this is a no age stated peated Asian whiskey. I have mentioned it before on the channel, but I don't think I've reviewed it yet. Anyway, yeah, stick around, and I guess that's it. Let's jump into our list. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that would be greatly appreciated. So we're going to start things off with an honorable mention here, and this one is the Torveg Alt Gleam. Someone's going to correct me. This is a pretty new distillery. I think it was only like 2016 or 2017 that they opened. They're the only other distillery on the Isle of Skye that is not Talisker, and even at a really young age, this stuff is good. They did recently put out a batch strength version of this stuff. I haven't had it yet, but I do hear good things. But this one is a straight shooter. It's wonderfully peaty. It's very coastal. It's very mineralic, so it is relatively unique. And again, for such a young age, very, very good. Worth checking out. Starting off the proper list at number 7, we've got Laphroaig Quarter Cask. Now, this is my favorite affordable Laphroaig by a good margin. We get 48% here. We have classic Laphroaig flavors, great intensity, and it doesn't hurt that this is the cheapest whiskey on this list. Now, of course, we do have some cask involvement here with our quarter cask, but this is still very much all about that classic Laphroaig peaty distillate. If you like that, you're gonna like this. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll know that I don't always get along with Laphroaig, but from their range, I would say this is probably the one I come back to the most because I can count on it, and again, because it's very well priced. One to check out. At number 6, I've got Legic 10. Now, I think a lot of people would have this much higher on the list, and it's very, very well regarded. It's not my favorite straightforward peated whiskey, but it is a damn good one. It's fully craft, it's unique. We have that kind of Legic funk, which is, some people say it's a little bit like lactic or cheesy. This one, like the Laphroaig, is very well priced. It's not quite as cheap, but it's definitely on the cheaper side of this list. I don't actually like this one quite as much as the Rioja cask, which is no age stated. I do prefer that one, and I think it's actually a little bit cheaper still, so that one is recommended. But with that heavy cask influence, it doesn't quite fit our premise here, so I'm going to stick with the 10-year-old. Still a fantastic whiskey. It's legendary at this point. Try it if you haven't. At number 5, I've got Ardbeg 5 and 10. I'm lumping them both together. These are really good whiskeys. Now, I do often say that Ardbeg's core range kind of took a hit when Ardbeg shifted focus towards putting out a billion different special releases. I do think that's true, but every so often I'll come back to a bottle of like 5 or 10-year-old and think, yeah, that's still really good. Be warned that these are batchy, especially the 10-year-old, but when I do land on a good bottle, it just kind of reminds me of everything that I love about Ardbeg. Ardbeg is kind of like the embodiment of a classic, no-frills, peaty Islay whiskey. Of course, big peat, big smoke, medicinal, coastal, all that fun stuff. So yeah, Ardbeg 5 and 10. Try them. Number 4, I think a lot of people would probably have this lower on the list. I really like it. I'm a huge fan of Kilchoman Mocker Bay. Now this one does have a very small touch of sherry in it, but that's not what dominates the flavor. And oddly enough, this is probably the most summertime friendly peated whiskey I have on this list. Peat, of course, is usually a very heavy and rugged flavor, and it's not something that I would normally associate with summer, but for some reason, this one just really works well for me in summertime. Maybe that's just me. But no, Kilchoman has a really farmy and ashy profile that I really get on with. It's not quite as coastal as some other whiskeys, but yeah, really good stuff. This is their most budget-friendly standard release, and it's a good one. Check it out. It comes in at number 4. Number 3 might not be super easy to find because it's a Springbank product. Of course, I'm going with the Long Grow here. Long Grow is fantastic stuff. Don't overpay for it, and if you get it on the secondary market and someone's trying to like overcharge, just ignore. But if you can get it for a fair price, it's really good. This stuff is often described as Campbelltown meets Islay, which is apt. We get some great flavors here. It's peaty, it's rugged, it's punchy, and it does have that Springbank magic, if you believe in such a thing. At number 2, I've got a bottle that I think a lot of you would have predicted I'd put at number 1, and that's the Lagavulin 8. This was my whiskey of the year last year for 2023. Didn't go over well with everybody, but I stand by it. I think this stuff is excellent. Lagavulin has an exceptional house style, unlike the 16-year-old though, which is sherried and at 43%. This one showcases a much bolder and stripped back Lagavulin. It is a simpler whiskey. It's a distillate-driven bottle, but I think it works really, really well. Check it out if you haven't. Lagavulin 8. Number 1 is going to shock you. Hey, you know what? That's pretty good clickbait. Number 1 is going to shock you. I'll put that in the title. I'd click on that. But it will. It is going to shock you unless you care less about whiskey than me, which is everyone? Anyway, dramatic buildup. Lag Kilmorey. Lag is another new distillery. This is very young whiskey. It will not work for everyone, but I think this brand and this whiskey has a very bright future. It's absolutely brimming with character. It offers up a different style of peat. For me, this one goes very much into like industrial peat, sort of like machine oil, oily rags, old-timey factories or something. But yeah, it's definitely unique and it's definitely very young, but it harnesses the youth, it makes it work, and I think that's something that's not easy to do. This is special. So I do recommend this stuff. If you're very sensitive to youth, maybe don't buy it, but for those of you who want to try something that's very characterful and very different from standard peaty whiskeys, check this one out. Okay, that's the list, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Keep in mind, it's all just opinion, and I might have forgotten some stuff. So if you think I left anything out, or if you want to just give me your own list, looking forward to reading those down below. Keep in mind, we're going for budget-friendly whiskeys that are not too cask-driven. What do you got? And finally, for those of you who stuck around to find out what the mystery pour in the glass is here, as I said earlier, this is a peated Asian whiskey, no age stated. What I've got is Nika Yoichi. This is a beautiful whiskey out of Japan. It's rounded, it's characterful, it's very well constructed in that Japanese kind of way. The only reason I didn't include it on the proper list is that while it might be cheaper in Japan, here in Taiwan it's about 75 US, and I think in most markets, if you're in the US or Europe or something like that, it is going to be more. So it gets relegated to a mystery pour, but still excellent stuff, worth checking out. And that takes us to the end of the video. Before I say goodbye, I do want to give a quick thank you to all my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much for your support. And if you guys want to help out the channel, keep it financially sustainable and independent, there are a number of ways you can help. I have Patreon and PayPal links down below. Anything and everything helps, guys. And again, big thank you to those of you who are already supporting. And yeah, I guess that's the begging for money part done. So we're good. See you next time.